Welcome to Reduce Your Stress with Tim Ringgold. I'm a board-certified music therapist, author, and expert on how to use music to relieve stress fast. This podcast is sponsored by McConnell Music Therapy Services, Inc., where they believe in the power of music to transform people and communities. Based in Northern California, their board-certified music therapists support people of all ages and abilities within hospitals, schools, corporations, and communities using music experience to connect, express, and de-stress. Visit them at mcconnellmts.com or their Facebook page, McConnell Music Therapy. This episode of Reduce Your Stress with Tim Ringgold is also sponsored by Dr. Nisi, trainer and certifier of master and executive coaches, because she believes every person, every relationship, every business, and your finances should be extraordinary. Find out more about Dr. Nisi Moore and the Life Coaching Institute at www.drnisi.com. That's DRNEECIE.com. Hello and welcome to another episode of Reduce Your Stress with Tim Ringgold. It's so great to be with you, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm super excited to introduce to you another extraordinary artist. Michelle Qureshi is a composer, multi-instrumentalist, and classically trained guitarist who brings a contemporary yet timeless aesthetic to her music. Her albums are heard around the world on new age, ambient, and guitar-focused radio programs and streamed millions of times on global platforms. She's received awards and nominations for her music, including from Zone Music Reporter and One World Music, with releases on various music charts as well. In 2020, she became a mainstream artist, debuting Within, her 14th album since 2012. Believing in the power and inherent spirituality of music, with its great potential to unite, connect, and touch us all, Michelle shares her music at concerts, festivals, yoga studios, healing centers, and special events. In 2018, she debuted her Harmonic Sound Immersion, a transformative sound meditation created by the healing vibrations of ancient and modern instruments, which she describes as a kind of horizontal concert. So, sit back, relax, enjoy Michelle's journey along the creative process, and I'll see you on the other side. Michelle Qureshi, thank you so much for joining me on Reduce Your Stress with Tim Ringgold. It's so great to have you here.
Well, thanks. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm super excited about our time together. A fellow relaxation guitarist named Ryan Judd. First, I think he said something cool on Facebook about your release. And since he plays relaxation music, I play relaxation music. I was like, oh, what, if Ryan's into something, I should check it out. So I followed Apple Music to your album and your newest release, which is Within, which was released this year, and was immediately so happy that I bumped into you and have been enjoying that record playing while I'm quietly trying to stay calm while I work. So it's great to, finally get to kind of pick your brain a little bit about your approach to your craft. But I just kind of, without giving me, like the whole chronology of it, I'm always interested in how artists describe their first meeting with music. Do you remember when you first met music?
I was really, really young, really young. And I had, and we're not going to do the long story here, but I had, always, if I was in a toy store, I would get that toy guitar. Okay. And then a little bit later, someone, like when I was maybe in second, third grade, someone had a guitar in their, in their living room as decor. And I just, just touching the strings was just electrifying. And meanwhile, I was kind of a, I was loving the music of the Beatles, and I'm of an age that they had this cartoon out, and that was kind of like the first exposure to the music, to the guitar, to the way this, this incredible group of musicians made music, and so that's the real short spark of it. And it didn't become a reality of having my own guitar till I was 13, and I bought my own guitar. So
All
that's
right.
kind of how that started.
Well, that's really cool because it seems like for you, it was always about the guitar.
Yeah, it was. It was always about the vibrating strings, Yeah,
That's really neat. So, because like
yeah.
that was going to be my follow up question. It was like, okay, music, and then the guitar itself, since that's your main instrument. It was like,
Mhm.
what was that story? But it's never been any other. It's always that was always the attraction for you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things have come after, but the core thing, and that's what's kind of cool about Within. That was like kind of taking, everything that I've exposed myself to and my audience, and saying, you know what, now we're going to go back in a highly introspective, intense way and just put all of that history and evolution into 6 solo strings here, and
Mm.
make this album. And that's what Within is, the first one, like, to be exclusively solo guitar and look very, at a different way than I've looked at music before.
Okay. All right. That's
Yeah.
cool. Let's just jump right in there. So you, like on Apple Music, since 2012, you've been incredibly prolific releasing records. There's
Mhm.
like, I don't know, like 13 different releases up on Apple just in
Mhm.
that 8-year period, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, was there a steady, have you been just churning that much music out throughout your journey, or was there a creative spark in 2012? Is there a reason why, as a fan, when I go onto
Mhm.
Apple, that it seems like the world of Michelle Qureshi begins in 2012, but I'm sure that's not the case, and it has a lot to do with technology, probably. But
Well, the world of composition and again, like you said, the technology of having the ability to create a little home studio, that is
mm,
where it started. I mean, I studied uh, classical guitar, and then it was dormant for quite a while. And this
okay,
2012 date pretty much coincides with, oh, my only child, my daughter, she's done with Montessori. She's starting third grade in the public school. The bus is picking her up right outside on the corner. Hey, guess what I can go back and look into. And the outpouring, I've really had to kind of put myself under control, because if you look at, Apple or Bandcamp or any of those, well, Bandcamp, where I can control the platform, there's tons of music that's private on there. So to say that what you're seeing seems like a lot, my hard drive is full of stuff that I've just, not shared,
wow,
and some of, everything out there is not, well, everything out there is a process that you
yes,
can hear, and the things that you're not hearing are also part of that process, but part of
mm,
a, uh, you know, the music itself can be very stress relieving, but sometimes the production and the capturing of it for me is a stressful thing, because I literally cannot pick up my guitar like on a Thursday and get a new idea. And so, to consider what I've done prolific seems like it's really kind of just the tip.
wow,
Yeah, it's just part of having, and that's why I don't think it's anything other than, putting all your effort in your craft and your musicianship, and then kind of getting out of the way because of what flows through you. It's unstoppable.
mm,
Yeah.
that's really great. Well, very well said.
Yeah.
And it's a
Thank you. Yeah.
and I think I know at times I actually wondered whether it was unstoppable or not. Like, I
Hmm.
remember there was a certain time when I was trying to write a certain type of music and I
Uh-huh.
was struggling with writing it. And I was
Yeah.
like, I only have so many good ideas. You know, this is like, I'm running out of ideas. And
Uh-huh.
is there going to be a new idea? Like, ooh, if I squeeze really hard, I'll make a new brain cell and I'll have a new idea. And
Yeah.
what I've noticed now with the acoustic guitar, playing solo acoustic guitar, like there is no shortage it is literally just me. I just have to stop thinking. And if I
Yeah.
can stop thinking, my hands can
Hmm.
finally get busy. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. It's as if they're being guided when you get out of the way, when you dissolve any ego, because that's pretty rampant in the guitar world.
mm,
We just got to say, honestly, I try to remind people that I play music on the guitar. I don't play guitar,
mm.
and I'm just as happy if you're listening, maybe more happy if you're listening with eyes closed, than watching what my fingers are doing, because that's not the important part. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's really great. I really appreciate that distinction too, because we have a little curbside like ensemble that plays right now on the weekends outside for our community. And one of the guys, I say, Ollie, you're a guitarist.
Hmm.
I just play guitar. There's
Yeah.
there's an approach
Yeah.
to the instrument, you know,
Yeah.
that you can see there are slight differences in it. And even today, I love the way you just said I play music on the guitar, because if it's not copywritten, I'm totally stealing that. Because I was just telling the group, I just did a composition over the weekend where I was trying to make my guitar sound like a keyboard,
Hmm.
and the whole piece of music was EDM, like dance music,
Yeah.
using a loop machine, or loop
Hmm.
pedal, and
Yeah.
a steel string guitar. And my
Hmm.
goal was for it to not sound like a steel string guitar.
Uh-huh.
And I was really trying to compose music,
Uh-huh.
electronic dance music,
Yeah.
on the
On the
guitar.
guitar. Why
Yeah,
not, right?
yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Let's see if we can pull this off.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I love that. That is a great way of looking at it. I mean, that kind of frees
Yeah.
you up compositionally too, conceptually.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's really, really
Yeah.
cool. Um, you, what have you noticed during this creative explosion in terms of how has the music evolved over those different releases? Were you trying to keep? This is going to sound almost cheesy,
Uh-huh.
but were you trying to keep to a sound or a brand, like you could be known as, or did you just let the muse guide you to whatever wanted to come out? And if so, like, what did you notice about your own evolution over all these records?
Right. Good long question.
Yeah.
So I would say that yeah, there's an obvious evolution there in terms of the greater freedoms um, that perhaps my studio began to allow as I knew a little bit more about what I'm doing. But that there's an underlying thing even from the first album, because I've had that arc of self-criticism that kind of holds things back a lot. And it may take a few years before I can listen back to one of my projects and uh, actually feel what is present there, instead of just being too judgy about it. That had a place, right? That got me from A to Z,
Hmm.
but or whatever letter I'm on. But I would say no. I never kind of said, "Oh, I should capture this image and this idea." And even early on, I would get on Bandcamp some fans saying, "I love your music, but it confuses me that you can write a piece like this, and then you can write a piece like that, and then something like that." And I always just saw the identity as an umbrella to whatever comes to me. And so in that way, I've been lucky. You mentioned about trying to write a certain kind of music or piece, and I've never said, "Oh, now it's time for this, or it's time for that." I've just heard and felt and went for this or that.
Yeah.
And in
Followed.
fact, my little bit of forays into music licensing or music libraries have never felt very successful or rewarding, especially in the beginning, because I thought, let's put this out there, or the one of the libraries would say, "We need this or that," and I was like, I can't write like that. I know plenty of people who can and do, But my thing about libraries was always like, oh, I hope you can find a use for what I've made, because this can't really change, you know. And as a result, as you can imagine, not a lot of success in music libraries or licensing, not yet. But yeah, so to kind of summarize, I've never tried to capture a certain image because I am not sure what that image would be, number one. Number two, one of the things that I think is a spark in my music is that you can kind of hear me discovering something as you discover it.
Hmm.
So, the composition has come through and I'm like, whoa, this is just that. And that little bit of spark of discovery, I think, lives in these pieces, and people feel that. I would say, like, back when I made the album Meditations, I was doing a lot of Reiki, and I hear that in there. I take those pieces sometimes and just go on those trips, because I haven't had the opportunity to do it for several years. But
Gotcha.
yeah, it feels so infused by what I was doing in my life at the time.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, almost like
yeah,
there's a little bit of a timestamp for you.
yeah. Oh,
Wh-
I think that definitely, that's a good way of putting it. There's a timestamp on each thing that's been released, and as
hmm.
I said, as the things that haven't been to. So
Yeah, gotcha. Yep,
yeah.
got that.
Uh-huh.
What what excites you most about the guitar?
Being in the creative moment and a sound, or this
Hold on,
sound
Michelle.
going into
Hold on.
that sound.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Hold on one
Oh,
second. I
sure.
just had my wife walk in on
Oh,
us.
sure.
So I'm going to ask that question again. I'm going to
Sure.
edit that piece
Cut
out
it out. Sure.
yeah, because this is really, really good. Okay.
Okay.
What excites you most about guitar?
I think the moment of creativity and discovering the sound, the way it, vibrates not just in your ear but in your heart, and that feeling, it's the most special thing.
Hmm.
Love creating. I like performing. I like sharing, but there's a little bit of anxiety always involved in that. But just that moment of alone and creating, I've just always been a sucker for that.
That's so great because I wanted to ask. I know some people have more fun in the studio. Some people have more fun on stage.
Mhm.
Where would you put yourself on that spectrum? Are you like a studio fan, a stage fan, a 50-50? Like, how would you, I mean,
I
it's
would.
qualitative, obviously, but I'm just curious for
Right.
you, which one do you just, and why?
So far, it's just like not even not a recording studio, more like my practice studio where I'm doing the discovering.
Yeah, I get
That
that.
is fun, and I think at this like this past year, had I been able to be out there performing the solo music from within, had I been able to continue with my like hospital gig where I would go in and play looped improvisations for 2 hours, the dial would move a little bit up on that performance thing, but it's kind of a moot point right now. Hopefully we talk soon and it's not, but yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mhm.
It is a bit of a moot point for now.
Yeah.
I found them to just be so qualitatively different. And I noticed that the more I do one, the more comfortable I'm in it. Um,
Yeah, I think that's, the more I perform, because I'm much more of an introvert. I'm not an
mm,
extrovert. I don't like the attention, but I love the music to get attention, you know.
yes.
So, somebody else is not going to be going around playing my music for me, that I've got to play it. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
yeah.
That's great. I loved what you said earlier about the excitement in like what I would call like the discovery
Hmm.
of the music coming out of the guitar, out
Hmm.
of your hands.
Hmm.
Um, do you have a sense, what's the experience like for you when the music is emerging?
Hmm.
Are you are you thinking the music in your head and then reproducing it out of your hands, or are you more like receiving the music, like it's coming out of your hands and then your head is actually spectating, like hearing it as a spectator rather as than the composer? Does that make sense?
It does, and I'm trying to hear those concepts as two different things because in a sense, I feel like that's an almost simultaneous thing.
Mm,
Your hands are there for what's coming through you, but your head is also at the same time hearing what comes next. And your hands know how to get to what comes next because you've done the training and the homework.
hmm.
So to
Yep.
me it's like this terrific symbiotic relationship between hand, heart, mind, outer influences, what have you, that kind of come together. And I'll think about that a little bit more deeply and see how can I separate those two things. But it's 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 been my observation in the last year or so that having a certain level of experience and technical ability and training allows you to forget about it all and just be intuitive.
Yes.
you know
Yes.
so you can see
100%.
how I kind of blend both ways that you've said into one, like, grand experience these days.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
me, it's like the needle will move. Sometimes I'm analytically thinking and composing, like
Uh-huh.
I'm going to move here because that makes a lot of sense. And
Uh-huh.
in particularly if we're thinking about like a arrangement, chords moving through
Right,
space,
the
like what
theory.
the
Yeah.
theory side of it, right?
Yeah.
And then unleashing, then letting the melody emerge from
Uh-huh.
within that. I'm not thinking the melody. I'm never thinking the melody. The melody comes out of my fingers and I listen to it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's
Right.
fun. And
Yeah.
I've had
Mhm.
moments like, and I'm sure you have too, when you're doing like your loop improvisations where you literally find yourself saying, oh, that's fun.
Mhm. Oh,
That
yeah.
oh, that's
Or, "Oh, that
fun.
lined up
I
nicely.
that's look
That
at
feels
that.
good." Yeah.
Yeah, and you're spectating and creating at the same time. You're in
Yeah.
this micro dance between time where
Yeah,
times
exactly, especially
you're
with looping, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Because you don't know at
Yeah.
the end, you
What's
didn't
coming
know how
up?
you were gonna
Yeah.
get there. You didn't
Yeah. Yeah,
that
and it
wasn't
is
the
a very
plan.
fun journey, yeah.
That's
But
super
to
cool.
speak of the kind of to get away from also the, analytical or saying, "Okay, now I need to go to a minor 7, then, come back to this." I found one way to make that almost impossible, even though I don't tend to thinking like that, even if I wanted to. I tune my guitar differently so many times and put these partial capos up and down it that I don't know what chord I've played except for hearing the flavor of it. I literally don't know what note I just hit, and it just is great.
I wish
And
the podcast listeners could see the fact that I just made my head
the
exploded
explosion.
symbol
We'll drop an
because
emoji
yeah,
somehow.
you just blew my mind. Wow. That is so great. That's how I play Native American flute. I
Uh-huh.
don't know what notes I'm playing.
Yeah, same.
It's
Yeah,
yep.
but I
And
have much small I can only play about 8.
right. I mean, there's less
Right?
to choose from, but
Yeah.
coming from that pure, almost analytical blindness, like I
Mhm.
can't think my way through this, so
Yeah,
I'm
you're
gonna
just gonna
feel my
let it
way through
happen.
this. Yeah, I'm gonna let this happen.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. You do that on guitar too.
Mhm, mhm.
Really
Yeah,
neat.
yeah, and as you mentioned, I mean, that my harmonic sound immersions are completely about, just being intuitive and in the moment. I might go from playing the gong to putting a guitar loop. I might say, "Okay, I'm gonna play this in G so that I can set the guitar down, keep the loop going, and go pick up the flute."
Hmm.
But that's as close as it gets
Yes,
in terms of, I mean,
totally.
yeah.
With guitar, because there's so many styles of music that guitar is used in.
Mhm.
Have you always been in the acoustic guitar, mellow, new age, relaxation vibe, or did you go through different chapters where you played other styles, or what was it about this style that just was like, oh yes, please?
I think it's this style now is where I am in my life probably, but before I studied classical, when I was a teenager with that first guitar, that was back when the popular music, the rock was really guitar focused and really excellent, So you had Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page, and I had electric guitars, and you had, up to Peter Frampton, and meanwhile Pat Metheny, and then I went one semester to a school that taught jazz, and then I, dropped that all and said, okay, I need a classical foundation. I need this theory. I need all this, because all that work had been with my ears and getting that big anthology from the 70s called Chord Chemistry and just like warping my fingers into all kinds of shapes and, trying to teach myself and, uh, a good job, but there's nothing that replaced like the hardcore conservatory ear training and the oral skills and the theory and, all
Absolutely.
that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So
I had a self-taught journey, through classic rock, and then I went back to college in my 30s,
uh-huh.
and that's where I got the classical conservatory drilling.
Uh-huh.
Not I was a music therapy major, so guitar performance I would have been playing 8 hours a day, but for music
Yeah.
therapy I was probably only having to play maybe one or
Uh-huh.
two.
Yeah.
But like you said, that bedrock,
Yeah.
next level for me as a
Mhm.
to it like it just puts so many more colors on the palette for me to paint with.
Right. So many more options,
Giving me language. It was like learning
Yeah.
vocabulary if you're learning a foreign language and you just learn the
Right.
vocab, and now you
Right.
have a greater vocabulary to
Yeah.
speak with, right? And
Right. Right.
that's what that training
And
did for me.
for some people, and I obviously was one of them, I guess, is it gave you a certain security. I don't know what it would be to be like putting out the music I'm putting out, but not knowing how to read music or not knowing, how to get from A to B. So for me, it's yeah. But there are musicians who can do that and they're comfortable doing that. I think the comfort level is a point. For me, I probably would not have let myself go any further than having fun with the guitar as a teenager, where I had the 12 string, a mandolin, I had a pedal steel.
No
I mean,
kidding.
I was all over the place with stringed instruments. And, it was only in this like later part of my life now with the synthesizers and the like you mentioned, Native American flute.
Mhm.
I have a student cello that I actually made some music parts on my uh, the album Seventh Wave. A lot of electric guitar. All electric guitar is on silver cord, which is a very
Okay.
ambient and it's a whole different experience. And then there's the acoustic guitar. The other instruments there's on meditations is like I have a didgeridoo and
Mhm.
uh, borrowed an instrument called a slotted tongue drum, which is just
Oh
really,
yeah.
really pretty,
Great
sweet
instrument.
sounds.
Yeah.
And, putting as much acoustic against the electronic instruments as I can, because I also love those textures, right?
Yes, me too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So that explosion of different instruments has just been coming in the last, I'd say the last 4 or 5 years, acquiring more things for my palette, and
That's right.
always a lover of world instruments. I mean, if I could have a little gamelan orchestra down in somewhere in this house, I'd have it. But sound, yeah. I mean, some people are just so wired for sound, and respond to it, and that's a plus and a negative because for the last 4 years, even though I had this beautiful little home studio, we also had a whole subdivision going in our backyard here, and the earth moving, the destruction of the forest that was back there, everything, where I had drawn so much inspiration, like sitting on my back porch playing guitar, completely compromised,
Wow.
and
That had
those
to be hard.
sounds, I mean, my husband at that time would come home from work and say, what do you mean it's quiet now? Well, that is over. It's been happening all day and it's killing me. And, now he doesn't even go to work. So
Right.
everything's at home anyways. So
Yes.
anyways.
As I ride the mute button because the trash trucks are going by or
Yeah.
because I'm
Yeah. Well,
recording
that's
in.
always going to happen. And the buses now whiz right by our bedroom window where there used to not be a road. But
Oh,
the whole transformation, and like I said, if you look next time you go on Apple, if you look for a song called, it's a single, it's called As It Once Was,
okay.
you can see what my view was. And now
Oh,
just imagine a bunch of houses back there.
oh, you're breaking my heart.
Yeah,
Oh,
cornfield plowed down, forest essentially removed.
wow.
I heard an owl for a long time last night, so I was thankful
Hmm.
for that. But, as far as the deer, coyotes, hawks, everything's compromised. Yeah.
Yep. I feel that we live out right on the edge of like where the most recent development and they haven't built
Uh-huh.
across the main road yet. And
Uh-huh.
everybody's trying to say, don't build across the main
Yeah.
road, like
Yeah.
don't do it, don't do it. And it's such
Yeah.
a catch 22 because we're here and we're
Yeah.
in a development.
Yeah.
And so it's like we're the
Why do you
people
get to
that
say
they were.
stop?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Now that I'm
Yeah.
here, stop. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It's such a catch 22, but you're just like at some point, please, can we just draw a line and
Yeah.
just enjoy what we
Yeah.
have?
Yeah.
I totally feel that. How are you in what ways are you still playing during the pandemic?
Performance wise, well, I have, well, since we've now had this pandemic going this long, there's been a whole summer season where I had a few opportunities to play my guitar outside for uh, different events and for some yoga classes out in the park,
Nice.
mask on outside, just some solo guitar. I did a really neat sound immersion, the first one I've ever done outdoors,
Hmm.
down in Story, Indiana, which is a small little Brown County kind of town,
Huh.
for a New Age retreat that was quite successful. That was good. And then since we've been brought indoors, I've done just a couple of the sound immersions. And then about 10 days ago, Mindstream hosted a live stream concert for me to present the album Within. And that was a great experience. It was lovely. We interspersed like fan videos in between the songs. And so if you get a
Oh.
chance, I have it up on YouTube now. And
Where
it was
would
just
listeners find that?
my Michelle Qureshi channel on YouTube or my
Okay.
Facebook page.
Okay.
And maybe we'll drop a link in
Yeah,
your thing for
that
all
sounds
those
great. We'll
things.
put it in the show notes.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was really it was none of us thought at the beginning of the year that this is how I would tour this album, but there it is. I played about a dozen pieces and had a little bit of real time comments. The producer of it, who was down in Texas while I'm here in Indiana, would throw the occasional comment up and told me that my daughter was watching from college and that she was responsible for a lot of the comments. so so that's great. She's the best fan ever.
Aw, that's
Yeah.
super cool. What's the hardest part about playing on Zoom?
It's the lack of true energy. I mean, maybe as I open more spiritually or develop more, it will be possible to actually bring that energy right through. Because I mean, what is one of the biggest sources of so-called energy is the
Mm.
electronics, right?
Mhm.
I had the person that was doing Reiki on me those many years ago. Um, she was struggling on her phone to do, oh, what was the thing at the time? Maybe Skype. She
Okay.
couldn't possibly get it to work. And then all of a sudden, like you see in a sci-fi movie, my screen went like a little like blinky and wavy, and she appeared. And we traced it back to her never having really connected on Skype. She didn't. There was no trace of it on her phone. There was no trace of it on mine, but she came through on my phone for this like less than a minute. It was so bizarre. So,
Wow.
anyways, I think the more awakened we can become, the less of an obstacle or just a dead screen. This will actually become something that we can. I mean, because so much of our world is pushing virtually here.
Yeah.
We have some long-term permanent changes that we're looking at as a result of what we've discovered from this pandemic. So right now, the weirdest is like just not being sure how something went down,
Yes.
But
the lack of that feedback that you get in real time.
Exactly. Yeah. But just like a live performance, the so-called live in front of people, the more you do that, the more you collect, the more it's going to be not more meaningful, but more and not more routine. I'm not really sure. Maybe you can help me, Tim, with what I mean. The more just part of the experience it becomes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me is just literally missing the sound of applause as a
indicator. Yeah.
Just like there's this moment of relief when I finish a song. I'm not gonna lie. And then there's this immediate like feedback, energy feedback, like I fed. So feedback, think of it, right? Like I feed all this energy out through the music. Whoa, here you go. Right. Chew on this. And then the song ends. And then what the applause is for me is it's the audience giving me back to me. Like, oh, I just want to give you back what you just gave to me. Thank you. And so it's like this feedback and that like figuring out how to allow that through this technology. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but like clap emojis doesn't really do it for me. Not really the same,
And clearly we need audio emojis.
We need some audio emojis. Yeah, we need a laugh track and a clap track, like they can just press it and it's like not too crazy. And but I will say, like in the chat, like I've had people write tears crying. And it reminds me that people are literally starving for live music in any way they can get it.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm just doing something that I take for granted at like, I'll play, I'll play a song or I'll play my Native American flute. And then suddenly the chat lights up and like, I'm like, oh, people are really starving for this. So I got to deal with whatever it is I got to deal with because these people are hungry. And
exactly.
They need to be fed. So my ego needs to be fed somehow. And it's not even my ego. It's more of just that reciprocation, that love. That's really what it is. It's, do you feel the love?
I think kind of based on a lot of my playing, applause almost in some sense can throw me because I'm usually just delivering, say I have a pretty regular gig at Unitarian church here, which now I just send a video, until they do this. But there was not normally applause at the end of something, but you feel that. And my most common thing is just like, can just hear a sigh or just, and then the same thing with the harmonic sound immersions, you're trying to kind of gently wake people up at the end of it. And you're grateful that they've gone into some dreamland. And if somebody were to, even somebody bumps something and knocks over their water bottle or something, it's like it shatters us, right? So the applause thing is nice in the right environment. The most applause kind of things I'm more used to, like when I would play at a wine bar and it was already noisy.
There you go.
Applause on top of that. So my audience seeking kind of thing is for these very kind of people who really just want to close their eyes and listen.
I really love when you said the sigh. Hearing that released, you're like, check, my job is done here. Because that was what I'm trying to do with this music, is really allow you to sigh. Be like, your next album, music to sigh to. That's goal
If I could
setting
just
right
get that
there.
all over Pandora tonight.
That's it. I think, anything that said music to sigh to or music to cry to right
Oh,
about now would sell like hotcakes. Let's just
yeah.
say
Yeah.
there would be a lot of resonance
Hmm.
for that right now.
Hmm.
Where do you like to tell people you are online when someone's like, "Oh, I loved your music. Where do I find
Oh,
you?" Where do you
yeah.
direct your audience? Where are you
Well, I
active?
usually mention my website as a jumping off point because there
Okay.
you can go get to the music and the socials, and it's just my name.com,
Yeah.
michellequreshi.com. But other than that, there are these there's Linktree and Songwhip, which kind of give you all the streaming platforms.
Mm,
And I guess the most it's really hard to know what's productive. I mean, I like Instagram. I put a lot of videos, and I like the brevity of the presentation. It doesn't get political. It doesn't get bogged down in
yeah.
anything. Twitter is, I'm present there as well. Facebook, the personal, and then the music page. It's blurry. It's a place for videos, and it's a place to meet people. But all of that is kind of, the bottom line, the most support comes when someone, follows you or listens to your music and follows you on Apple. I don't even know. Can you do that on Apple Music the way you do on Spotify?
I don't know.
I don't
Mm,
even know.
yeah, I
Yeah.
just download.
Pandora, thumb up that stuff.
Oh, right. That's right. I remember that
Just
on
like
Pandora.
get that interest motivated by or also what's the new not new, but telling Alexa, play my music. So it's fatiguing all these things to kind of
Yes.
keep track on when we
All
really
the
just,
things.
want to make music and reach the people who want that music,
Yeah, totally. And
yeah.
they're in so many places now. And
Yeah, yeah. And
even with,
of course, I should mention that I have a bubble now on Mindstream, which is the label that
oh,
that
cool.
released that released within and has gone through this 2020 with me and
Yep.
helped me all along the way. Yeah.
Yeah, Mindstream's very cool because they organize their music with a purpose.
Hmm.
And I like that, like,
Yeah.
because we all prescribe ourselves music on a daily basis for like, oh, I need some music to
Hmm.
X, right? And
Yeah.
so they thought about the way that that website's going to be like curated
Hmm.
from their artists,
Yeah.
you included.
Yeah.
Well, what do I need my music to do for me right now?
Yeah. Hmm.
And I think that's a really smart question to be anticipating among
Yeah.
your
Hmm.
listeners. So
Yeah.
I
I
love
definitely
that.
love
Was
how they organize it.
it's the
Yeah.
first time I've seen a major platform in the music, I'll call it entertainment still, not music therapy, but music entertainment space, really
Hmm.
be that pragmatic. And
Hmm.
like, we want to help you with your life through music. And so what are you
Hmm.
trying to do? Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and that's Mind with a Y.
That's Mind with a Y. One
So Mind,
word,
yeah.
lowercase, Mindstream. And you're right. I mean, it's a very genius idea. And my connection there, of course, is Michael Whalen.
Yes.
And
Very
he's
genius guy.
A&R and general manager of Mindstream. And he's the one that brought me on board. So I'm
Nice.
grateful.
Yeah. He's the guy who can write anything in the moment that you
Well,
remember.
yeah, he's
You,
got, I mean,
you were saying
how
that
many,
earlier on.
and any kind of music, like, I mean,
What do you
you
need?
can tell him what type of,
And
for
just,
a program or something. And I just don't have that experience.
yeah.
Revisit it sometime, but
Yeah.
right now this stuff is just about what wants to come through.
There you go. There
Yeah.
you go.
Not
Well,
what I'm telling to come out.
right. That's it. And that's that
Yeah.
dance, just letting
Yeah.
it out. Like,
Hmm.
and for me, the universe is so abundant that there are models of human being out there that were built with the software called any style, anytime.
Yeah.
So great, and mine right now is this what it is, and it's evolved over time, but I'm just letting it out. Hey, you want to go come out and play, and I follow it. That's genuinely the way I think about it these days, is I follow it, and
Okay.
I let the chips fall at that point where they fall. So
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Michelle, it has just been a treat to get to spend time with you today. Thank you for kind of opening the doors into how you think about music and guitar and your craft and your journey with our listeners.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. It's been great talking with you. I know we can go on and on.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
someday we will.
That's right.
So
And someday
next
we
time.
will. All right.
Thank you
We'll
for
talk to you
sharing my
soon.
music. Yeah.
Yeah, you bet. And so MichelleQureshi.com is the main portal, right?
Yeah.
That's where we want to direct everybody. So
Yeah.
everybody, that's Qureshi, last name, and 2 L's in Michelle.
Correct.
And it'll be in the show notes as well. So, all right, until next time, we'll see you later.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks so much for checking out this episode of Reduce Your Stress with Tim Ringgold. I've got a couple of resources for you, which you can find in the show notes or you can listen to right here. So check it out. If you enjoy the sound of my voice and you enjoy the sound of my guitar, imagine them put together. Go to sonicrecovery.com and take your very own relaxation vacation, where I take you out of the stress of the present moment and back in time to a time when you felt happy, healthy, safe, and sober, and then walk you through that memory so you can bring back those feelings into the challenges you're facing today. So go check that out. It's at sonicrecovery.com. If you're a healthcare worker in recovery, check out the Music in Recovery Self-Care Guide for healthcare professionals that I created just for you. That's at hcp.sonicrecovery.com. And if you're a healthcare worker and you'd like more information about how to help your patients use music, you can check out the Music Medicine Guide that I created just for you at musicmedicineguide.com. Lastly, if you enjoyed the pod and you haven't done it yet, would you just take a minute to rate and review it? It really only takes about 60 seconds, believe it or not, and it would go a long way to help us make more people know just how good this pod is, particularly for healthcare workers and their stress. Thanks again. See you next time.